Welcome to U.S. Media Power.
Tonight, we turn our attention to Iran, where chilling images and first-hand accounts emerging from the outskirts of Tehran have raised alarm across the globe. A nation already gripped by widespread protests, economic collapse, and political tension now confronts a heartbreaking and devastating reality. A morgue overwhelmed with bodies, families in anguish, and more questions than answers about the true human cost of a government's crackdown on dissent. For weeks, Iranians have taken to the streets in some of the largest demonstrations the country has seen in years. What began in late December as protests against soaring inflation, rising food prices, a plunging currency, and deteriorating living conditions rapidly evolved into a broader outcry against theocratic rule and political repression. Decades of frustration with economic collapse and limited freedoms have boiled over into a movement that stretches from Tehran's boulevards to towns and villages across all 31 provinces. Yet the story of these protests is not merely one of political unrest. It is a human story. A story of lives lived and lost. A story of families who went out searching for change and instead found tragedy. Reports from inside Iran remain painfully fragmented due to a near-total internet and communications blackout imposed by the government. A blackout aimed at controlling information, obscuring events, and stifling the ability of ordinary citizens to share what is happening in real time with the outside world. Despite these restrictions, ominous videos and images have managed to surface through satellite connections, leaks, and limited internet access. These clips show rows of black body bags, stack after stack of them, some inside crowded corridors. Others laid out on the ground around a morgue facility, the Crackdown Forensic Medical Center, south of Tehran. In some scenes, grieving relatives wander among the bodies, clutching photos, calling names, and searching desperately for loved ones who never came home. The footage, verified by independent agencies including AFP, depicts a scene that horror alone cannot fully describe. Bodies are seen wrapped in black plastic, lined up in corridors, scattered in open courtyards, and stacked in temporary storage areas erected because the official morgue has been overwhelmed. Human rights groups report that visible bodies number in the hundreds, and broader estimates, though extremely difficult to confirm under current conditions, suggest that the deaths could be far higher, potentially reaching into the thousands. These images are far from abstract. Behind each body bag is a life filled with stories, families, hopes, dreams, all cut short amid a country's struggle for freedom and dignity. Among the dead are students, merchants, mechanics, mothers, fathers, and young people who answered the call of protest with determination and courage. Some were shot at close range, others were caught in crossfire. In one widely reported case, verified by international news outlets, a young woman was reportedly shot in the head during clashes, a grim emblem of the ruthless force used against demonstrators. The government's response has been brutal. Security forces, equipped with live ammunition and backed by Iran's powerful Revolutionary Guard, have been deployed to suppress protests with overwhelming force. Drones, sniper positions, and heavy police presence have been reported in multiple cities. Thousands have been arrested, and many protesters were reportedly taken from the streets directly into detention centers with no transparency. Amid this crisis, the Iranian government has attempted to frame its actions as necessary to maintain security and order. State media broadcasts have labeled demonstrators as looters or terrorists, and have repeatedly blamed external forces, particularly Western governments, for instigating unrest and fomenting dissent. Pro-government rallies have also been organized, promoted on state television as demonstrations of national unity and loyalty to the ruling establishment. But the contrast between official narratives and what is being seen on the ground could not be more stark. In the streets and alleys near the morgue in Crackdown, state media's portrayal rings hollow. The reality captured in leaked footage tells of ordinary Iranians, not armed insurgents, who marched on the streets for justice and opportunity only to be met with lethal force. It is a bitter irony that in a bid to prevent dissent, the state's actions may have ignited more outrage, both domestic and international. Families searching for loved ones at the morgue are testament to this pain. Some have resorted to gathering around monitors that display images of the dead, screen after screen of faces whose only crime was to protest. Others sift through the bodies laid out on makeshift tables or blankets, hoping against hope to recognize familiar features. These are scenes of human grief, rugged, raw, and potent, that pierce through the fog of propaganda and censorship. Adding to the anguish is the fact that many bodies have reportedly been moved without informing families, or buried before relatives can claim them. In some regions, authorities have imposed harsh conditions on releasing bodies, turning mourning into yet another battleground between citizens and the state. Analysts say this tactic appears designed to intimidate families and quell the spread of collective grief that could turn into broader mobilization. This is not the first time that Iran has faced mass protests. In recent years, waves of demonstrations have erupted over various grievances, from economic deterioration to the death of Mahsa Amini in 2022, which sparked nationwide outrage. Today's protests, however, have taken on a unique ferocity. They are anchored not only in immediate economic hardship, but also in long-standing frustration with a political system that many citizens feel has failed them. International reactions have been swift and vocal. Human rights organizations have condemned the use of lethal force against civilians, and multiple foreign governments have called for restraint and investigations into reported abuses. The United Nations and other global institutions have expressed concern over the mounting casualty numbers and the limited ability to independently verify events due to the communication blackout. In Washington, political leaders have issued statements of condemnation, and discussions have begun about potential diplomatic and economic measures aimed at holding Tehran accountable. Some officials have even raised the specter of broader responses if the violence continues unchecked. These international pressures now intersect with Iran's domestic struggle, creating a tinderbox of geopolitical tension and human suffering. Yet despite the regime's efforts to suppress dissent, the protests have shown remarkable resilience. Videos sent out via satellite internet show crowds continuing to gather, chants rising in defiance, and the movement's core spirit refusing to dissipate even in the face of heavy repression. Some activists have turned to technologies such as satellite internet to bypass the blackout and share what little information they can with the external world, keeping alive a lifeline of visibility that the government hoped to extinguish. And while the Iranian state condemns these demonstrations, labeling them as foreign-backed or illegitimate, many ordinary Iranians see them for what they are: an authentic expression of collective frustration, courage, and hope for a more just future. Young people have taken to the streets in unprecedented numbers. Families who never saw themselves as political are now deeply entangled in the struggle. It is a national moment that may shape the future course of Iran for years, perhaps decades to come. At the morgue in Tehran, where the bodies have begun to outnumber answers, the raw truth sits in plain sight. Here, grief and anguish are not abstract concepts. They are lived realities, a stark and somber record of what happens when state force collides with popular will. Every body bag, every unclaimed name, and every tear shed near those rows of the dead speaks to a deeper narrative, that of a people refusing to remain silent in the face of suffering. As we continue to follow this story, what remains clear is this: the struggle in Iran is not just about protests or politics. It is about fundamental human dignity, the right to be heard, and the cost that ordinary people pay when that right is denied. The morgue overflowing with body bags has become a grim image, but it is also a symbol of something larger: the price of a nation's quest for voice and agency. For the families who continue to search through the night for missing loved ones, for the protesters who march despite danger, and for the millions watching from afar, the events unfolding in Iran are a stark reminder of both the fragility and the power of human resolve. The world watches, citizens question, and the tides of history move onward. This is U.S. Media Power, committed to bringing you comprehensive coverage with clarity, depth, and context. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned as we